And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing.
So welcome everyone to the May meeting of the Tri-Valley Democratic Club. Thank you all for attending today. We're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to, you may join in. Otherwise, I will lead. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Someday.
All right.
Someday.
Thank you all. So we were expecting Swalwell to be here promptly at 7, but he had a conflict, so he's going to be coming a little bit later. So I'm going to actually flip the first 2 items with the strategic plan next steps and and Swalwell's visit. I might need to cut into the strategic plan as we're going. So I'm going to actually, Jackie, if you can stop sharing your screen.
Going to be bigger.
I'll take over screen share if you want.
Okay, I have it up, but go ahead.
Yeah.
You got it.
So stop yours and then I'll take over. Here we go. All right. Easier for the pacing, I think. All right, so I want to talk about the Tri-Valley Democrat strategic plan. And so this is going to be interactive, so I'm looking for definitely a lot of feedback from you. And Jackie, if you can please take notes as we're going along. I think what we're really looking for right now, or what I'm looking for, is to work with all of you on how we can be as effective as possible over the coming months and years, and also how to really set up a structure that lasts beyond my presidency for years to come, that will really make sure that this club is successful for generations and beyond. And so with that, basically, some of the main goals that we have as a club, I think, need to be identified. And so we had a strategic plan meeting just before I became president, with many members chiming in, and I tried to distill this down into a few major points. These will need a little bit more fleshing out from members, a little bit more work to be truly defined, but I hope that these all work. So as I'm revealing them, if anyone has any feedback, just either throw it up in chat or feel free to chime in at any point. But our main goal is, number 1, far and away, is to elect Democrats. So that is the club's top priority, is to elect Democrats locally, nationally, and at the state. Number two is to pass democratic legislation and initiatives. So to make sure that we're working to support our goals and democratic legislation and initiatives at, again, local, state, and federal levels. We want to increase voter and party participation. So get people coming to the club, being active as a Democrat, as well as just being out there and voting. So trying to reach as many voters as we can. I'm a firm believer in that we win when people vote. Simple as that. So the more people we get out voting, the better our chances of winning and getting those priorities passed. We want to empower our members to action. So my big thing as the president of the club is that I can't do everything on my own. I don't think that I'm capable of many of the things that our club wants to do. And so I really want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be active and involved in areas where they feel impassioned or empowered, and taking away and really creating a club that they own as well. So bringing everyone in to be able to feel empowered to do the actions that they feel are appropriate for our club. Again, focusing on those main ideas of electing Democrats and passing legislation and initiatives. Part of that is going to be engaging and informing citizens. So one of the main activities our club can do is getting out into the community. No matter how big this club gets, we're still going to be relatively small compared to the voting population of the Tri-Valley. And so we need to make sure that we're out there. If each of us is getting 10, 20, 100 voters to really listen to us and hear our stories, suddenly we're making a humongous impact. We're really moving the dial. And I know some of our real power players will call thousands of people each election cycle. We'll talk to just tons of people. And so if we're out there really talking to citizens, engaging and informing them, we're going to really be able to exponentially expand our influence. Another part of the club is to network with other Democrats. So there is socializing, especially once we're back in person, but just the ability for that first half hour of the meeting before we start our official meeting to just meet with people and talk with them, I think is very important. Learn new faces, meet new people, connect. If someday you decide to run for office, then you'll know people who are here to help you. So networking with other Democrats, and I'm really looking forward to being able to meet in person again, where we can share our desserts and really talk to each other in person and have those like nice free-flowing conversations. No matter how good Zoom is, it does not compare to in person. And then my question is, was there anything I missed? Is there any other things that we want to add to these 6 kind of main goals? And again, we'll flesh them out as we go along, but really these 6 concepts. Is there anything else anyone wants to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add something that relates to training of the members in terms of being more effective communicators and persuaders. Maybe this is a subset of number 4, empowering members to action. But I think somehow if we present some opportunities in terms of informing the members and helping them develop in terms of their skills.
I think that's a great idea. Maybe something along the lines of just training members or providing training to members to be, more effective communicators, more effective
Persuaders.
We've done that in the past. Ron and I did one session on body language and the psychology of talking to voters. And we had another session where we actually brought in a psychologist that the club paid for, and so did the people attending paid for, about talking to people we don't agree with. And we can continue things of that nature either during meetings or in the case of the psychologist, she came down to the Union Hall on a weekend afternoon, and we had a session with about 20 people, if I remember correctly.
Evan, this is Van.
And go on and tell what else you do, Ellis.
So anyway, I was thinking you could add a network with other organizations like Swing Left and Indivisible, which are more focused on various actions across the country.
Sounds great. So networking with other organizations. Awesome.
So we could add to number 6, Democrats and other allies, or Democrats and allies.
That would work.
Sounds great. Perfect. And then I see Mary has her hand up.
Yeah, I've got 2 things. Did I miss engaging youth?
I didn't add a specific one for engaging youth, but I think that might be worth either when we flesh this out with engaging and informing citizens, or possibly as its own category. Be happy to add it.
Hey, Evan, this is Samir.
The other thing, the other point that I wanted to make is one that you well know, Evan, and that is we have Tri-Valley Go, which is already a hub for different organizations linking together to communicate and unify effort. So that already exists, at least in the formative stages.
Yeah, and as you're well aware, we are working as a partner with TV Go.
Right.
Tri-Valley Dems will be working with them, and that'll be part of our networking plan, is kind of coordinating with them, I believe. So definitely will be added on in there, and whether it's an official goal or just part of our networking goal, we'll see how it fits in.
Evan,
Yeah.
Do you know if Tri-Valley for Black Lives and AAPI and the high school groups are involved with TV Go?
I don't know for sure. I believe they are. I'm 90% sure they are, but I'm not positive. I'll check with Bob to make sure on that.
Thanks.
All right, and then I see a hand up from Joanne.
Yes, related to number 6, I wanted to add in the group emerge as one that trains and encourages Democratic women to run for office. I
Yeah,
think that would be a good one with which to network.
Excellent. We'll definitely add that on. And then I believe Samir, did you have a?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know, listen, all these things are good. I think it's just question is, do we want to have how many goals? Like, is there just like, like, I know when we worked on this meeting back a few months ago, we had a long list. But I think the key thing is all about really engaging our citizens, informing, training, getting the candidates to run, endorsing, and helping them. I think those are a lot of things that, just comes down to is how many more things do you want as a goal, or is this good enough? So.
Excellent point. And I think one of the things that will happen during this process, as it's getting refined, is we'll have the main goals, and then those will have actions associated with them. So, a goal would have 3 or 4 actions or something like that. So excellent points, everyone. Thank you on that. So with that, I want to talk just very briefly about the general structure I'm trying to set up. This is going to be this is why I'm not a graphic designer and always ask people to help me for things. Is generally speaking, the flow of information is going to go for when we have something important going on. Ideas, actions, all of that is going to come from members. Members will work with the appointed chairs to basically refine their actions to make them into a actual, formative, something that we can actually do. The appointed chairs will bring that to the elected officers. The elected officers being the ones who set up the meetings, who set the agendas. And then with that, the elected officers bring it back to the members as an idea for the entire club to begin working on, or something that we can round up volunteers for. An example of this is going to come up with one of our next steps, which is going to be basically what's happening right now with a couple of our appointed chairs. Samir, Sarah, and Kunal are working together on trying to expand recruitment. And so that's going to be one of our big next steps when we get there. But the idea is, we were looking for new members. The appointed chairs started working together on this idea. They brought it to me and the elected board on how we can do it. And I'm going to bring it back to everyone here at the end of this presentation. And so that's the general flow. It does go in every direction, every which way. Of course, as always, we're all open. I'm always here for anyone who has any ideas or wants to talk to me. But generally speaking, ideas can be a little overwhelming if it's all flowing through me. So having the appointed chairs helps us kind of keep a flow of ideas and keep an organization that helps me a lot. So with that, we do have a number of appointed chairs and elected positions. I'm not going to go through all the names of them. You're familiar with all of them as we did our introductions last month. Once the website is up, which should be any day now, we're just getting some payment processing finished, and then we'll have our new website up, and that'll have contact information. So you can email anyone if you see an idea of someone you want to get a hold of for one of the appointed or elected chairs, to really talk to them about your ideas and get something started. So with that, what do? We do what you want us to do. This club is only as powerful as the members make it. So all of our ideas come from you, the members of the club. So I get emails, I get contacts from members, from chairs, from elected officers asking me about different things. What are some of the resolutions we want to support? What are some of the actions we want to take? There's a few things that are a little bit in the works that have been postponed while we get some structure in place, but there are some of the ideas that came from members on this call right now that I'm really looking forward to pursuing as we move forward. And so if you have an idea and you want your idea to become a reality, and this could be anything that you would like to do, ranging from, candidate recruitment, trainings, getting certain guests, anything along those lines, basic steps would be find an appropriate chair or officer to talk to. So, whichever member, whoever it is, just find someone to speak with about it. Share it with one of the officers or chairs to get your idea started. Work with them to flesh out a plan or presentation. So is this something that's going to require months, years, just one meeting? Is it a short training? Is it a presenter you want to bring in? Or is it something that's really going to require a concerted effort of many members over a long period of time? So work with the chairs or officers to figure out kind of what that's going to look like. Once you have that figured out, we're going to bring the executive, bring that plan to the executive committee to get it on the agenda. So if there's something that we want on the agenda, something that we're going to bring back to the club, we get it to the point where it's ready to be presented, and then the executive committee will add it to the agenda. Currently, it goes through either me or Jackie, but you can really bring it to any member of the executive committee and we'll get it on there. And then either you'll present it to the club or someone else will make the presentation, depending on what it is, and we'll enact your idea. We'll get it going. So that is all it takes to make your idea reality. It is, of course, a little bit more work than just 4 simple steps, but that's basically all it takes. It's really just meeting up with a chair or officer and just talking through the idea on what the actual action you want to do is. I do recommend when you're talking about an idea, keep it to something specific. So say your passion is, homelessness. You really want to find shelter for everyone. That's a great idea, but that's going to be too much for our club to do on its own. However, if you have an idea on a piece of legislation or a project that you wanted to support, or some bite we could take out of that, volunteering opportunities that we could organize around for the club, that's something we can actually do. So on really broad, vague ideas, we can have presentations on them, we can bring in someone, but if you really want to make that difference, finding that action, finding something that we can sink our teeth into and get people into is going to really help. So like I said, volunteering, legislation, action is going to be what really brings people out and brings people together. So always encourage you to have ideas that have an action involved with them, something we can do. And so what do we need to succeed? So this is my question, another question for you all. So what resources do we need to be successful? Are there any resources we're currently missing? Are there any chair positions that we're missing? Any additional chairs that we need currently? Are there things that the exec team can do to support you? And what will it take to be the change you want to see? What would it take to get you to act, to do the activities, to actually bring those ideas forward? And so I'm opening it to you at this point. If anyone has any suggestions, any comments on any of these, is there anything additional that we need that as an exec team, as an elected official of this club, that I can do to support you?
Can we vote for Ollie?
For a while, we were doing tabling on a regular basis at the Pleasanton Farmers Market. That was curtailed when I lost vision in my eye and was unable to kind of be the focal point of that. What we need is some people who are willing to spend Saturday mornings at the Pleasanton Farmers Market, but also to house the stuff, a table, a display rack, chairs, literature, and a whole bunch of things. But we need somebody who's willing to take the lead on that. I'm no longer physically able to do that. And I also don't drive anymore. I have most of that stuff that is the table and the display racks and such. But I need somebody to pass that on to.
Awesome. If anyone wants to volunteer to start working on that, just send me a message and I'll send that out also in the email, looking for someone to take the lead on that item. Mary.
That's a place where we were able to recruit new members, talk to voters, have one-on-one conversations with people. And many of you spent time out there with me, and it was very productive. And we have to reestablish our presence now that the pandemic is almost over, and we can see the light on the corner.
And I think Livermore has a farmer's market also.
Yeah, there's a Livermore farmers market that we had a presence at during at least the 2 Obama elections.
What about Dublin? Does they have a farmer's market?
I'm not sure about Dublin.
Yes, we do. We have a Thursday, it starts Thursday evening. It's actually, it's not a morning one. It's afternoon going into evening, so.
6 to 8 p.m.
All right.
So we need presence at all of those locations in order to do any of the stuff that we're talking about, because that's where we pick up volunteers, and that's where we contact the public.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll definitely, if anyone wants to volunteer, please let me know. And then
Could I say one thing on that? I remember when Alice and I worked Livermore, and it seemed like Livermore wanted us to charge us for the table, or said, no, you can't be political or something. You remember that, Alice?
Well, they had what they called a free speech zone.
Okay.
I forgot what
Oh, we had to go across
the
the
south
street.
side of that park. What is it?
yeah,
Carnegie.
we'll be good on the logistics side of it. I've worked with Pleasanton and Livermore farmers markets before, so logistically we'll be okay. I haven't worked with Dublin, but I'm sure it will be fine there too.
Okay.
So anything else on needs that we have?
Yeah, Evan, this is Van. I'm wondering if we could be in contact with some of the various candidates' offices, Rebecca Bauer-Can and Glazer and even Swalwell, to know if they've got any particular needs, as their campaign season opens up in the future.
Take off our mask.
Okay,
Put your mask.
sounds good. We
Can
definitely.
I remind everybody to please, if you're not speaking, mute your line. We do allow everybody to come in unmuted for, to make it as easy as possible, but let's not talk over each other. And if we have any additional comments, if folks could raise their hands, because I think there were some people that had some comments already queued. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And there is actually one other thing that I will mention now briefly before the congressman gets here, is when we do get to that section, we're gonna remove the ability for you to unmute yourself temporarily, just so no one's talking over him. So you will need to raise your hand at that part. Sri?
In terms of what would be helpful and what I would personally and hopefully others is like more trainings. I think someone else had mentioned around like how to engage with voters, perhaps who might not be politically aligned. And then also, I think more trainings around how to engage with the political process, whether that's like attending city council meetings or lobbying for certain issues. I think like just hands-on resources in terms of like how to actually go about doing that, or just referrals in terms of like maybe what other organizations are putting on that we could possibly go together.
Perfect. That's a great idea and something I definitely hope we're able to do soon. All right. So with that, if there's anything else anyone thinks of as we're going along, please let me know. And then I want to go to just finally next steps. And so some of the next steps we have, I just wanted a couple of the immediate next steps in here. And so first, and this is a very important part, is growing our outreach team. Right now, Samir, Sarah, and Kunal are kind of leading that front with Samir really focusing on general membership and has in a lot of ways been taking the lead on bringing that team together. Kunal focused on youth and Sarah focused on digital outreach. And one of the issues right now is that with the three of them, they have a lot of really good ideas, but bandwidth is always an issue. And so I want to make sure that we grow this team so that people are able to really help out, that we're able to get, posts going frequently, members going to the farmers markets, all of that. And so if anyone wants to volunteer to join the outreach team, one of the things I will offer is that we'll include a training on digital outreach that'll be open to all members, of course, but that I want to make sure that we really focus on the communications team. And I believe I can work with Ron. I'm not going to volunteer him on the spot, but we can work with Ron also on an in-person communications training, which I think he has done before. So I will promise you a digital communication, and I will twist Ron's arm to try to get him to do an in-person communication training. And so I will train you and help you.
My arm is fully twisted, as you can see, and I'd be happy to do that in terms of communication and persuasion. And I think it's an important aspect of being a member, and it is an important step to becoming more effective.
Awesome. Thank you. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, so I appreciate you jumping in and agreeing. So we'll have those two trainings for anyone who wants to be on the outreach team. If you want to join, you can email me, and I'll put my email in the chat. You can call me if you would like, which I'll also put in. Or if you would like to, if anyone wants to send me their email just in the chat right now, you can send it as a direct message to me, and so it doesn't go public if anyone wants to just join right now, and I'll connect you with the rest of the digital or the rest of the outreach team so we can really get that going and we can grow our numbers. As we grow our numbers, we'll be more effective in accomplishing all of our goals. The second thing is I want to go through and just review and possibly rewrite our bylaws just to streamline them a little bit. We've had a lot of amendments in the past 2 years, and so this will just be a committee that is going to be able to look at them. We'll meet up and just make sure that we have the best bylaws we possibly can. I think I was talking with Ellis, and one of the things that he said that I think is very important and informative when going with bylaws is bylaws should apply the structure for the club, but they shouldn't be so constraining as to limit every action of the club. So if you're interested in joining the bylaws committee, I'll send out an email on that as we're coming up. But if anyone's interested, you could also send me a message or an email saying you would like to join. And then the third immediate action is to start looking for races or issues to mobilize support around. It's a lot easier to get members to build our team if we have specific actions we're actually going for. And so some of the ones that came to mind are things like the 8018 race, which is starting up now. Virginia governor is going to be going. Medicare for all in California is a fight that we're going to be having for the next several years. I can't believe I forgot to put the recall on here. That's going to be coming up. But those are some of the immediate issues that came to my mind. But if there's any others that people see or things that they want to join in, sending them to me or the executive team working on actual actions we can start getting behind and moving people. I think that we're much more likely to have success building our team, building our support, if we have specific actions that we're targeting. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing so we can see each other. And so I just wanted to say that, I appreciate all of that. I know that was a lot to go through. I hope that was informative and helpful for everyone as a way of kind of setting a framework for what we can be doing going forward. And then I really am looking for us to start building up and expanding our team. It's going to be impossible. It's literally impossible for me to single-handedly grow the Tri-Valley Dems and make us into a powerhouse. We already have a great team of people who've stepped up to be chairs. And so I feel like I have a lot of support right now. We have a lot of great ideas. I'm hearing from the different chairs, all kinds of awesome things we can be doing. And so I just really want to make sure that we then get to the step where now we have members joining in on these actions and really doing the things that we need to do so that we can really start shaping the future of the Tri-Valley and beyond, and getting Democrats elected, getting those Democratic policies enacted, and really building up our base so that we can continue sending, people like Representative Swalwell to Congress, who came from our club and got all the way up to Congress. And so with that, I'm actually going to turn over the meeting to Ellis, just to let everyone know we are going to mute everyone, and then we're going to and then if you'd like to ask questions as we're going along, please raise your hand for this next part. But I'm going to turn it over to Ellis and let him introduce the congressman who has just arrived.
Thank you, Evan. I have been coaching a few candidates in the last election, and I told them that what's important is a narrative, and I've used Eric's narrative as the example of what a good narrative is. And Eric's narrative goes something like this. His father was a sheriff in Iowa, and it seems that some of the people in the Iowa town, some of the political figures in the Iowa town, parked illegally and got some tickets, and parking tickets. And they asked Eric's father to fix the tickets. And Eric's father refused. He got fired by the Iowa town and moved to Dublin, California. And the lesson that Eric brought from this, and I've heard him say this on many times on television, no one is above the law. And we're very proud that Eric is part of our family. He joined this club when he was 18 years old. Tim Sabrante was his civics teacher and the president of the club, and convinced Eric to be the club secretary. I first met Eric in 2008 when he was chair of the United Democratic Campaign, the Tri-Valley United Democratic Campaign, that opened the campaign office for Barack Obama and our down ticket candidates in Pleasanton. And still get a thrill down my spine every time I introduce him. Our favorite congressman, don't tell Mark DeSonia I said that. Our favorite congressman, one of our favorite congressmen, Eric Swalwell. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Ellis. Thank you, Sharon. And thank you to the club for having me back. And also want to recognize, I see council members Arkin and Testa from Pleasanton on the call as well. So thank you for joining us. Yeah, Ellis, that was my earliest memory as a kid, being 5 years old and your dad telling you that he was probably going to be fired. And I didn't understand what that term meant. I just thought he was going to be put in a fire, and that's why it stuck with me. But I later learned that he was willing to lose his job to stand up against corruption, and he did. And that's why we moved our little family out west. And I'm glad ultimately that he had that courage. But to be honest, Ellis, he doesn't really like me recounting that story. He feels a sense of shame as, the father of the family, that he lost his job. And I always tell him, Dad, that was the best lesson that I could have learned as a kid. that no one is above the law. And I hope I applied it the right way, in both impeachments against Donald Trump, that whether you're the mayor of a small town in Iowa or you're the president of the United States, that we all have to follow the same laws. And here we find ourselves, right? It's so refreshing, 100+ days post the inauguration of Joe Biden, Donald Trump in the rearview mirror, deplatformed from Twitter. But of course, just because Donald Trump is no longer in office, that does not mean that racism and corruption and misogyny have gone away. They're still presenting themselves in many, Trump emulating forms, whether it's, Marjorie Trader Greene or many of the colleagues that she serves with. We're battling against them every single day. But what I was hoping to talk about tonight at the club, and then really, frankly, just go to questions, was that my sense of things and where we are right now is that the 2020 election we believed would settle Trumpism versus democracy, that we would be able to get a result that would show either we're going to drift farther into Trumpism or we're going to redeem the country and reclaim democracy. But the result ultimately, with the Senate being 50-50 and Vice President Kamala Harris breaking the tie, and the House being a 3-vote majority, and the presidency being 6 states and about 50,000 votes, that it's not settled at all. In fact, if this was a basketball game, Joe Biden winning in 2020 was essentially the Warriors hitting a 3-pointer at the buzzer to send the game into overtime. And that's where I think we are right now, is we are in overtime. And it's not settled yet as to whether we will drift into Trumpism or redeem our democracy, that the margins are so tight at every level of government that we at least know the stakes for what's ahead. Now, I'm heartened that we were able to pass the America Rescue Plan. And I hope that you or somebody who's struggled with COVID, whether on the health side or the economic employment side, have benefited from the shots in the arms, the money in the pockets, the relief for small businesses, that is being distributed, where the need is most, pronounced. We also have, going forward, the America Jobs Plan, which is, a bold investment in infrastructure. And for me at home, that really means Valley Link. And, earmarks are back in Congress in a more responsible, transparent way. And I've requested $10 million to go toward Valley Link, and I think that's going to be accepted. And the hope is to expand, 42 miles from Dublin Pleasanton into Stockton, 12 stops along the way, 125 miles per hour on that, train ride, taking 30,000 people off the road each day, which, of course, knowing that, emissions from cars are the greatest cause of, climate change, that we could do our own part here in the Tri-Valley. So that, we're on the move. And the American Family Plan would be, child care tax credits and paid family leave for all, recognizing, the human capital and infrastructure that we have to invest in. So going into the midterm elections, if we can see the rescue plan fully achieved, pass the jobs and family plan, I would much rather be our side with an economy that is roaring and, in renaissance, unemployment coming down, America vaccinated, people back in schools, pews, on main streets. That's a campaign to run on. But as well as I do, that historically, during the first midterm election for a first-term president, the president's party suffers losses in the House and the Senate. And so you have good reason to be skeptical. But I would submit to you that, these ain't any old times. And, post-coup, post-impeachment, post-Trump, and post-pandemic, that we've got a reason to be optimistic. And I hope that today you feel a sense of optimism, and that optimism begets more optimism. Because going into the midterms, knowing my act and my scene, I want to focus on the House of Representatives and how do we protect the most vulnerable seats, but how do we also expand, the majority that we have. And California, frankly, is ground zero for what we have to do. we have to protect in Northern California, Josh Harder. And then going south, we have Congress members Katie Porter, Jim Costa, and Mike Levin. If we can protect those four, who are some of the most vulnerable in the state, and then add the 4 seats that we lost in 2020. We lost a seat in Orange County with Harley Ruda. We lost a seat with TJ Cox in the Central Valley. We also, in addition to Ruda and Cox, we lost a seat with Gil Cisneros as well in the Central Valley. And then Katie Hill, that was an LA County seat that we had. We lost that seat as well. If we add those 4 back, all achievable, we will do our part to keep the majority in the House of Representatives. And so the challenge I want to kind of lay on the table for all of you is, in very short time, we're going to know through redistricting what those districts look like. We're going to know the candidates are stepping up to run and win those districts. And my promise is I will invest whatever it takes to do our part to make the phone calls, send the text messages, and provide the buses and hotel rooms to go into those districts and door knock so that we can win and that we can protect. And I hope you're with me in that effort. Many of you were with us in 2018 when we had the effort to win the House, and we did that out of the IBEW hall. And I see Greg Bonato, because Greg was so kind to turn over that hall to us, and we took over the 2nd floor. And on election night in 2018, it was very, very thrilling and exciting to see our hard work play out as races were called all over the country that we had all worked on and called into. And we can do the same work here, and we don't have to look any farther than our own state. So we don't have to call this time into Texas. We don't have to bus into Arizona. If we just protect the seats in California and pick up the 4 that we lost in 2020, we will have done our job to keep and expand and grow the majority. So that's what we're going to be focused on. And I look forward to coming back to the club to lay out what we have to do with that regard. But in addition to the rescue plan, I just want to say, many of the social justice issues persist. Seeing the Senate pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, passing the background checks as well that we've already passed in the House over in the Senate. And most importantly, I think the most significant, impactful legislation we could pass would be the For the People Act, to make sure we get rid of dirty money and dirty maps in our politics. That means if we don't have 10 votes in the Senate, break the damn filibuster to pass that legislation. Break it, break it, break it. It'll make all the difference in the world. And I know you're with me on encouraging and suggesting that. So I'm going to turn it back over to the club right now for any questions you all may have. But again, it's just an honor to be with you. I'm excited for in-person events coming back. We have a barbecue at Gare Winery in Livermore the Saturday before Father's Day. I'll send out to all of you information about that event. It's going to be our first in-person event since the pandemic in the Tri-Valley, and I'd love if all of you could show up and let's just is the vaccinated, the people that suffered through this, hug each other, and plan and plot our way to building back better as a country. So Ellis, I'm going to turn it back to all of you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll take it from here.
Or Evan, yeah, thanks, Evan.
Yeah, no worries. I know you've been working with Ellis for a long time, so. So I wanted to first just really thank you very much for coming out today. I really appreciate your time. And I wanted to just personally thank you and say that we sent you to Congress for your legislative ideas and your legislative acts, but now you've been a real testament to courage on really just standing up for democracy, which I did not think we were going to be fighting for, but we're fighting for really the core of what it means for the American experiment going forward and seeing democracy survive. And you have been out in front, leading on defending our right to vote for our elected officials, our right to have our voice be heard. And I just truly want to say that I appreciate everything you were doing there. And I believe the rest of the club absolutely backs me on this, and thanking you with all of our heart and soul for the fight that you are having right now and standing up bravely and strongly. to fight for our rights. So thank you on that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our members for questions. If you have any questions, just please raise your hand and I'll ask you to unmute. So you will need to click a button. But I'll start with Sean Kumagath.
Hey, Eric, it's good to see you.
Hey, council
thank
member.
you so much for being here.
Of course.
Well, first off, just a comment. You know, you talk about the congressional districts here in California. So many of those, you know, the Asian Pacific Islander community was really helpful, or was really helpful in closing the gap, you know, in these really tight races. We were very disappointed to see Gil Cisneros not make it. And please just leverage the CDP, you know, as the secretary for the CDP API caucus. We are ready to go next year and do the outreach to the API community, but also just run those events. And so often we lack the resources, we lack the call lists and the in language materials to make that happen. So please utilize us. My question is, though, actually around the next priority for the administration, and been hearing in the news that might be immigration reform or some form of that. Can you talk a little bit about what the plans are there?
I think our district highlights why, when you have an all of the above immigration approach, it benefits everyone. And so, you know, we've passed in the House the DREAM Act, we've passed the farm worker bill, we're going to pass a high skilled immigration bill. But, you know, in our district, of the 53 congressional seats across the country, across the state, we've had the most growth in the 15th congressional district. And that is in large part because of high skilled visas, unaccompanied minors, undocumented, and family visas. We also are the 13th most wealthy district in America. And so that to me proves that a immigration policy that is open and welcoming also is an economic policy that means that everybody does better. And so that's why I'm going to continue to lean in on making sure that we pass comprehensive immigration reform. It's really on the Senate, though, because, you know, we've passed these bills in the House, whether the Senate wants to take it up or not. You know, in 2014, 68 Republican and Democratic senators voted for comprehensive immigration reform. That's 8 more than you need to pass, you know, the filibuster-proof majority. So it's just a matter of, will they have the will to do it now? But I think our district proves that, you know, diversity is prosperity. And that's true not just here, but it can be true anywhere.
Thank you. Next, Anne.
Hi, Representative Swalwell. This is
Hi,
Anne
Ann.
Brown. Hi. For those who don't know me, I'm the group leader for Tri-Valley Citizens Climate Education. And we are really interested in hearing how you hope to help make climate solutions a bridge issue in order to gain more confidence of voters from across the spectrum to enact effective climate solutions. And as you may know, we would love to meet with you. Our lobby days are coming up in June. I have not back from your scheduler. So we are hoping that we can actually meet with you via Zoom and share with you our new version of our bill, which is the Energy Innovation and Climate Dividend Act, which installs a price on carbon. So we'd love to hear your perspective on climate solutions and how they can be a bridge issue. Thank you.
Of course, and I just put in the chat our scheduler's email address, so please use that. Our longtime scheduler just left us to go to the private sector, and so I fear that maybe there could have been, you know, a loss in communication there. But send that to Olivia, our scheduler, and I promise that I'll be on that call, and you know that aligns with, you know, what I want to do on climate. So thank you for working on that.
Thank you.
And next up is Kashif.
How you
Hey,
doing?
Kashif.
Hello, how are you? Just had a quick question, if you could address HR 2590.
Yep. So if I'm correct, 2590 is a resolution as it relates to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and making sure that funds toward Israel do not, fund settlements or anything that dehumanizes Palestinians. And so I will take a look at it. When you posted it up there, I had to look it up. It had not yet been sent to me by the sponsor, but I've been working with J Street, and I'm a J Street endorsed candidate. And my pledge to J Street is that, in the funding that we provide to Israel, $3+ billion each year for their security assistance, in addition to funding that we provide, to the Palestinians, that I would insist that, that funding for Israel is not used to, further enhance their settlements. I oppose settlements. I opposed moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem without a grand bargain that would include a two-state solution. And while the attacks from Hamas and the rockets that fly into Israel are unprecedented in the amount, it gives Israel a right to defend itself. It also means that Israel has a responsibility, not to take innocent life, and also to be very, very careful and prevent against loss of life of journalists. And so I was troubled that the building that AP and Al Jazeera were housed in was targeted. And so I support the call in the Senate, by 28 senators led by John Ossoff, to have a ceasefire, an immediate ceasefire from both sides. I also support refunding the High Commission on Human Rights, which the Trump administration defunded because of its concerns over Israel, but refunding that program and continuing to provide robust funding to the Palestinians. But frankly, I think Prime Minister Netanyahu is completely incapable of providing a two-state solution. I don't think he believes in it, and I think it's to the detriment of that cause that he remains as prime minister. And so I hope if there is a new prime minister in Israel, that the Biden administration will lean in and really impress upon the need, to have a two-state solution so that both sides, and I agree with Senator Sanders, who said this weekend, Palestinian lives matter, that they do matter, and that we could have that two-state solution.
Thank you. And next, Sri.
Hi, my name is Shreya Rapidi. Thank you so much for being here, Congressman Swalwell. I'm a huge fan of your work, especially you leading the impeachment against Trump. My question for you is, why did you decide to run for president, and do you plan to run again or for another higher office in the future?
Shri, my doctor assures me that I have the antibodies for that, and so I will not be running again for president. I ran because, frankly, because of many of you. You helped me in 2018 in the pursuit to win the majority, support candidates that gave me hope that things could change in Washington. And 29 of the candidates that delivered the majority were in their 40s and under. And I thought, new energy, new ideas coming to Washington. 19 of those candidates beat NRA endorsed members of Congress. And so I was really inspired to believe that this was a generational shift. And so when I got into the race, I ran on generational issues like climate, student loan debt, ending gun violence, racial injustice. But I found an electorate that very much was risk averse to any candidate that would have a problem taking on Donald Trump. And I heard across the country, look, we love that you're running, but we cannot afford to lose to Donald Trump. And it was not a surprise at all to me that the three remaining candidates were the most experienced in, Vice President Biden, Senators Sanders and Warren. And frankly, I think the voters got it right, because we lurched into a pandemic, and the candidate that won on our side was the most seasoned and most experienced. And I happen to think that if Mayor Buttigieg or Beto or myself were the nominees, voters may have been skeptical about rolling the dice on a younger, less experienced candidate. So I think the voters, maybe by way of fate, or divine intervention, they got it right. with Joe Biden being our president. I learned a lot. I love doing it. I ran to win. I believed I could win. And I think I'm a better representative because I credibly raised issues that had not been raised before. But no, I love my job. I'm running for re-election and feel a sense of responsibility, especially on the issue of gun violence, to see that through.
All right, thank you. And just very quickly, to respect Representative Swalwell's time, we do want to wrap up at about the hour. So if you can keep your questions brief, that would be appreciated. And next up is Linda.
I think, Evan, I need to keep my answers brief. It's not the questioners.
Hi, Congressman Swalwell. I think you may have already answered my question in that you said that CA 15 is growing, but I was wondering if you had any idea of how the redistricting, which candidate we are going to lose in California, since I know we're going to be down one seat because of the census.
Hopefully it's Kevin McCarthy.
Or Devin Nunes.
Or Devin Nunes, or they both run against each other and the Democrat comes out and we lose both of them. But, so because of the growth in our district, our district will shrink. It'll get a little bit smaller. The real issues with growth have been in the Central Valley and Los Angeles and Orange County. So somewhere between Bakersfield, Fresno, LA County, Orange County is where a seat will be lost, meaning like 2 districts will probably be collapsed. But I still think, as I said earlier, that we have a real opportunity to pick up the 4 seats that we lost. And if we did that, here's my promise to you. I'm not a forecaster, I'm not a psychic, but if we pick up the 4 seats that we lost in 2018, we will keep the majority. And we have every reason to believe we can do that because every candidate who lost in 2020 in California, they all received more votes in 2020 than they did in 2018. So it wasn't a matter of, they did something unpopular or a major issue they found themselves on the wrong side of. Every candidate who lost received more votes in 2020 than they did in 2018. So what does that tell you? Donald Trump brought out his base. Well, Donald Trump's not on the ballot in 2020. And so if we can turn out our voters, put up solid candidates, we can achieve those 4 seats and keep the majority in the House.
All right, thank you very much. Next would be Van.
So to follow up on that basic response and question, during the last 2 election cycles, we spent a lot of time asking people what their concerns were, but now it seems like Biden has answered many of those concerns. And I'm wondering if the Democratic Party is going to take the gloves off and start hitting the Republicans on their hypocrisy and their basic disdain for democratic institutions.
So Van, yes, I think the message has to be clear, like for 2022. And Bianca, that's what I said 2020, 2022. I think the message should be can't fall back or can't go back. Just make it clear that this is an election about progress or regress, progress or falling back to corruption, misogyny, racism, because we know where the Republicans want to go. I mean, whether it's out of fear or fealty, they are aligned with Donald Trump. And so if we just cast it as, we can't go back. We have an economy that is starting to roar, unemployment that will be at 4% by the end of the year, Americans who are vaccinated, schools that are open, and of course, progress on these social justice issues. We cannot go back. And people know what back was. They don't want to go back. A friend of mine told me the other day that his 9-year-old son said, "Dad, is Joe Biden still the president?" And my buddy said, "Yeah, son, why would you ask me that?" And the 9-year-old said, "Well, we just don't see him on TV all the time. Like, I thought maybe he got thrown out." And the dad said, no, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, the president is not supposed to be a circus act on television all the time. And so I think competent but quiet is a strategy, for us. And you're seeing with a 63% approval rating that it's working.
Wonderful. thank you very much. And I know we have more questions, but I do really want to respect. the
Yeah, I
time.
can take one more, Evan. Yeah, I'm in DC right now, so we're back
Yeah, no.
early tomorrow, but I can take one more to close it out.
All right, we have one more. Next one then is Richard.
Hey, Richard.
Great to see you. Thanks for being
here, sir.
Please don't rule out running again because you're getting worse by the day. You're just getting better, so don't rule that out. My question has to do with cybersecurity. I'm concerned about it because I don't know whether the administration sees it as something that the federal government needs to be on top of primarily, and secondarily it's corporative issue. But how do you look at it?
So we're seeing an escalation in ransomware attacks. So these are the attacks where companies are hacked and they're told by the hackers, pay X amount, otherwise we are going to lock you out and expose your most sensitive data to the public. And it's not only happening to companies that have a lot of wealth but may not touch critical infrastructure, but with Colonial Pipeline, it happened to a company that affects our daily lives. And we're seeing gas lines in America because the shortage that shutting down the pipeline caused. I think the question we have to, on ransom attacks, and I would welcome your feedback because I'm sorting through this myself. The policy question we have to take on is, should we make it illegal for a company to pay a ransom? And the argument for doing that is, if it's illegal for any American company to pay a ransom, then you disincentivize the hackers from hacking. Because if the company says, look, I'm not going to violate US law to pay this ransom, most of these hackers are what are considered professional hackers. And that sounds like a contradictory, but there is, believe it or not, honor among thieves. And many of these hackers, they know how the game works, and they themselves are quite professional. And if you pay the ransom, they will keep their word and they will give you the keys back to your company because they want the next ransom to be paid and they reputationally want to have a good reputation. So I think there is an argument for saying, you know what, no company can pay a ransom. And while there may still be some hacks, I actually think you may see an overall reduction in hacks. But I'm open to interpretation on that and analysis, but we are certainly exposed to more and more of these ransom attacks, and most importantly, ransom attacks on critical infrastructure. And that's what worries me the most. So I'd welcome your feedback. Second, we need to have a federal breach notification law so that if you are breached, you have to tell the federal government. Right now, no such law exists. And we also need to make sure that we have a national standard for what's called cyber hygiene for businesses that are in critical infrastructure. But this is a new frontier, and it feels a lot like pre-September 11. We know that the Colonial Pipeline hackers are in Russia, still learning whether the state of Russia sanctioned or supported this attack. But it feels like the Taliban in Afghanistan enabling Al-Qaeda to carry out the September 11 attack, where these hackers are certainly operating in a country that does not work with us or help us go after the hackers. And it's just got this feeling that it could be much, much worse. So lots of work to do in this area. This is in part why I stay on the Homeland Security, Intelligence, and Judiciary committees, because so many of our constituents at home, work in this sphere and have a lot of expertise to give to me on it. So Evan, one more question from a 15-year-old. Evan, you tug at my heart when you say 15-year-old has a question. So.
Okay, yeah, I know. I told you I would respect your time.
That's okay. Yeah.
Victor, if you'd like to go.
All right. Hi, Representative Swalwell. I've kept track of the work you do. I think that you're a great representative, and I appreciate the work that you do. But one thing that does come to mind to me in terms of regaining the House seats in California. would be to, I think it's possible to mobilize more youth voters, of course, but I think that there should be a special focus on LGBTQ youth voters, of course, very reliably Democratic voters. And I think that it can be very underestimated how many of them there are. So it's more of a comment rather than a question, but that might be something to keep in mind.
What's your name? Your first name?
Victor.
Victor. Well, thank you, Victor. The 2020 election saw record turnout among voters under the age of 30, and the 2018 election, for a midterm election, doubled the turnout for people under 30 from 2014, the last midterm election. And I agree with you because these issues are certainly at stake. We saw today that the Supreme Court is going to be taking up a case in the fall to reverse Roe v. Wade. And I fear that the same could be true for same-sex marriage or the Equality Act, if we can get the Senate to pass it and President Biden to sign it into law. And so if anything, I hope that your generation recognizes that the gear shift for policy doesn't only go, it's not only in drive, right? That there's other gears, that it could go actually in reverse, that we could in our lifetime see abortions banned. We could see same-sex marriages again banned. We could see employers allowed to completely discriminate against employees because of who they choose to love. And I would love to work with you to mobilize young people. And Kevin Farley on my team is on this call. And Kevin, if you want to put your email in the chat there, just so we can start getting volunteers, because we're really serious about, as I said, making those calls, sending those texts, going into those congressional districts in California to do our part as a district that's always stepped up, not only to protect what we have in the Bay Area, but to expand across the state. So Victor, I'm counting you on the team to help us do that. And I'm going to put you in charge of, finding some of your peers to join us as well.
All right. Yeah. I also may be a little bit off topic, but I appreciate your hatred for Josh Hawley.
Yes, we also have to beat him in 2024, but
yes, he is one of my favorite senators.
Yeah, first things first, right? Yeah, well, thank you all again. Evan, you're doing a great job with the club. This is a great turnout for a Monday night. And by the way, just some news from us. We are doing our part to continue to contribute to Democrats. We have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and we've got another baby on the way in November. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, my birthday's also in November. So
there you go. November 11 is the due date. So
very close. I'm 5. So I want to thank you again for coming out. We really appreciate your time. Thank you for answering all of our questions, and thank you for all you do for us in Congress. This club has your back, and we support you full-heartedly. I know some people didn't get their questions answered, so I would say that if you have any other questions, also email Kevin. He'll be able to help you or connect you with someone.
And you can email me too. I will. I just put my email in the chat as well. So.
Awesome. And thank you so much for coming out. Have a wonderful evening. Great. Get some sleep. It's late where you are.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. All right. So thank you everyone also for coming out for that. That was, I think, very exciting. It's always a pleasure to have Congressman Swalwell with us. I am going to take this as a time, since we do have a lot of new faces here, to just remind everyone also that the club works closely with Swalwell, and we're always happy to have everyone who is willing to join us. And so if anyone is interested, I did put the link in chat. So if you'd like to join our club, we welcome all members, whether you're in the Tri-Valley or not. We welcome you to come join us, work with the club. We're happy to have you here, and we will continue to have excellent guests throughout the region and work on ways to get everyone involved in electing Democrats to office at all levels, from local all the way up to the federal government. And this is just a small part by bringing some of you out to meet our representatives. And next up is next will be the actions we can take. And so with that, we're going to move into some of the general actions that we take every month. We do have first on the list is going to be a resolution on, oh, my notes are a little sloppy. Resolution to reinstate the US-Iran nuclear agreement. And so I believe we have a guest here to talk about it. I'm going to change the settings so you can now unmute yourselves if you need to. So I believe, Ellis, we have a guest today for this?
I'm not sure. Is Jack Kurzweil here? No, he didn't show up. But Jack is with the Wellstone Democratic Renewal Club, one of the biggest clubs in Alameda County. And he called me up and asked us to pass this resolution, which has two parts. The first part is what Evan just stated, that we should get back into the Iran nuclear deal, that is, get into negotiations and get that ball rolling. But part of it is that we should call off the sanctions. And the reason for calling off the sanctions is, although it hurts the mullahs at the top, it hurts the folks on the street a whole lot more. And they're very empathetic to the West and the United States, and would like Iran to be more American. And by getting rid of the sanctions and starting to talk to Iran, we not only address the Iran nuclear issue, but the whole issue in the Middle East. By just going after the Palestinians and the Israelis to have a ceasefire isn't going to work in the long run, because there are other players there. The players backing the Palestinians include the Iranians, the Russians, the Syrians, and not having them at the table ensures that there won't be a resolution. So we have to get everybody to the table that really has a stake in the area, and this would be a step in that direction. Not only has the Wellstone Democratic Renewal Club passed that resolution, but Alameda County Central Committee has also passed it, and a number of other clubs. Anyway, that's the pitch. That's the reason for asking to remove the sanctions. And of course, this list will be, or this resolution will be passed on to Eric Swalwell and our other members of Congress and the Senate,
And maybe the regionals.
and possibly at the regional level also.
Awesome. Thank you for that summary. I will say on that also, just as a brief thing, that if you want some ideas on kind of how the sanctions affect the people of Iran, I know this is an odd recommendation, but I do recommend you watch the Anthony Bourdain episode on Iran. It's very informative, very, on the street perspective of things. So if you get a chance, I recommend checking it out to see how the people of Iran are actually affected by these sanctions. So with that, I did get a correction briefly on it. So we will note that it says 2075 and 2078 in the first paragraph instead of 2015 and 2018. So that's just a typo that needs to be corrected. And then I see a question from Bianca. Oh, she got up brief. Oh, there she is.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. It's nice to meet everyone. I just want to point out that my ex-boyfriend was Iranian, and that is the correct pronunciation, not Iranian. That's very derogatory. And really, they prefer the cultural association of Persian to Iranian, which especially those who are currently residing here in the United States and have essentially shed or molted from the religious Islamic State that is now Iran. So that's all.
Thank you very much for that. And then we have another question from Sarah.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Bianca said and say, first of all, thank you for standing up for the correct pronunciation. I myself am an Iranian, and it really means a lot to see people continually educating one another. But I wanted to make one small correction. Not all Iranian people are Persian. Persian is actually an ethnic group of Iran. So for example, I myself am a Turk. I'm an Iranian Turk. So not all Iranians are Persian. The two are not interchangeable. But yeah, again, thank you for the pronunciation educational lesson, Bianca.
Thank you very much for that. Is that Tanya?
Yes, I would like to say Ray and I were in Iran in 2016, and we were so welcomed by everyone we were there. When we walked down the street, they came up to us, said, thank you, thank you, thank you for coming to visit us. They said, we love Obama, and I can't tell you how much they made us feel really welcome there.
Yeah, I would also say we met people there who talked about people in the technical area who came to the U.S. in the 60s and 70s. And so there are a lot of Iran people here who are now citizens. And it seems like they are really frustrated by these policies. So I think just politically, it was an awful thing to do, to deny that relationship that we had with them, and more or less it was an embarrassment to them as well. It should be to us. So we should straighten that out.
I would say the sanctions mostly hurt the poor and the middle class. The wealthy were doing quite well.
I agree. It seems the sanctions really are hurting our relationship, as well as the people who have no say in this decision. Yeah. So I don't see any other comments currently or questions. If anyone would like to make a motion on this resolution, I would be open to a motion.
Evan?
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you. So moved by Ellis. Is there a second?
I second. This is Jackie.
Seconded by Jackie. And so a vote, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, then the motion passes unanimously.
Evan, please reply to Jack's email saying that the club has passed this resolution.
Will do.
Thank you.
Sounds good. And then next up would be the treasurer's report.
Just got unmuted. Treasurer's report for this month, we added another member, so we're up to 113. We have 39 people who were previous members who haven't renewed. We're still trying at it. Our expenses were $2.80 for credit card fees, $120 for donations, 13 cents for that weren't donations, they were gifts to the outgoing officers of the club. And our ending balance is $2,475.90.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions on the treasurer's report? All right, hearing none. Next up is the minutes. Let me, always when I'm trying to link something, my screen goes wonky. All right, I'll link the minutes in chat and then give everyone a moment to review them. Jackie, do you have any comments on the minutes for last month?
Just that they were also sent out with the agenda. So going forward, if you don't want to have to look through the minutes and during the meeting. We do send those out ahead of time. And if you have any comments, suggestions, corrections, typos, grammar corrections, feel free to reply back and send us your comments and we will make those corrections.
Wonderful. Then I'll give everyone a moment to look over the minutes, or if anyone would like to make a motion to approve them, I am open for a motion.
And by the way, we're always available on YouTube. We post on YouTube. We'll later post on Facebook the YouTube video. And with tonight's video, since we had a special guest, I will go ahead and create a second video with just Eric as well, and then the full meeting in its entirety. So if there's any corrections, anybody see any corrections on the minutes tonight? The minutes from the last meeting?
I move to approve.
Nat Van,
Yes.
thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And that was Ellis. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I messed up the order a little bit. Sorry about this. But I forgot, I skipped over the election of our representative for the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee. So with our new bylaw update last month, we now will have our representative to the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee be elected as opposed to appointed where it was before. So as per the email announcement, if anyone would like to run for the position, I am taking nominations from the floor. Currently, the position is held by our secretary, Jackie. And so if anyone would like to run for the position, please let me know and we'll have an election.
I'd like to nominate Jackie.
Right. I second that.
And
Thank you.
Sharon seconds it.
All right, so we have one candidate. Is there anyone else who is interested in running? You are welcome to nominate yourself as well if you would like.
You must be an Alameda County resident in order to be on the Alameda County Central Committee.
Yeah, thank you very much for that clarification.
And the Central Committee meets the first Wednesday of every month. And then if you are part of the committee, you can also participate in the various committees. So even as a part of just the club member, you can participate and speak. You can't really vote on certain things, but you can definitely get your voice out there.
And as just for anyone curious about the logistics, also when it is in person, they meet at the San Leandro Library. It's currently on Zoom.
Correct.
All right. So I'll do a last call if anyone would like to nominate themselves or someone else. All right, hearing no other nominations, I'm gonna close the nominating period, and we do still have to have a vote. So we have one candidate to vote for. So I'm going to do a voice vote in this case instead of ballots. So with a voice vote, all in favor of Jackie being our representative to the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? And any abstentions?
I guess I should abstain.
Okay. Actually, I should probably too, but I'm not going to since I'm only one candidate. But generally, as the president, I would abstain from elections. In this case, I'll still vote for you. So it passes unanimously with one abstention from Jackie.
Thank you.
All right. And then let me check my agenda. So we're going a little bit quickly today, so we might actually end touch early. We'll see. We're now on to the section of the agenda of announcements, open forum, future agenda items. Well, this is where I turn it over to all of you if there's anything you'd like to see on the agenda or anything, any announcements you would like to make? Although I saw Jackie unmute herself, so I feel like I might have missed something.
No, I just want to say, I know that Sharon has a big announcement, right, Sharon, with a date? Do we have a
Okay.
date? Are we good to announce that? September?
Yes, Jeff put a request, Jeff Niebuhr, who's on the Planning Commission in Pleasanton, put a request in for our barbecue for Saturday, September 18th. They haven't started taking requests, but our application is in, and it's at Pleasanton Sports Park. So put that on your calendar.
And when can we confirm a July meeting for at IBEW?
I don't know. I'll have to check with Greg Donato.
Greg Venato's on this call, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still there.
Let's not put him on the spot. Sharon will confirm with him and we'll get back to all of you. I'm not going to force him to answer right now.
Thank you, Evan.
I'm not going to twist his arm.
I know I don't believe it's also Greg's decision solely to make, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably the county.
So we'll get to that. I am optimistic we'll meet in person in July or September. And so we'll get back to everyone on that as soon as we know for sure. The picnic will be, it's outdoors. That will be in person though. So our barbecue. So be prepared. So for sure, we're meeting for that one.
And if anybody wants to help me, let me know. We'll need lots of help.
Yeah, please do. It is quite a production to get it going. We invite everyone. We usually have speakers from all levels of elected officials coming out to this. It is quite the to-do. It is a very, very fun event. It's a real highlight of the year and we missed it last year. So it's exciting to be able to bring it back. All right, Mary.
I want to invite everybody to the next Livermore Indivisible meeting, which is June 13th from 1:30 to 3:30. The topic will be redistricting in this area. I don't remember the name of the speaker. Kyoko arranged a speaker, but it might be interesting. Please come.
Wonderful, thank you.
If there's time at the end, I have a question.
Oh, go with the question. I think we have time.
Okay. I read somewhere, and it might just be a rumor and maybe not accurate, that TJ Cox may not run against Valadeo for California 21 in 2022. Does anybody have information about that, pro or con?
I know nothing about that. Does anyone else?
Because that's one of the districts that we have to recapture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we need a strong candidate there. That was,
yes, we do.
TJ Cox it was a close win.
Yeah, it was in 2018, he won by 1,000, and then with 2020, Valadeo beat him. But not by a lot, not a huge win.
All right, I'll try to look into that, or if anyone else has contacts with TJ Cox, that would be definitely worth reaching out and let us know so we can plan, or if we know who a candidate that's going to be working there. And so Linda just posted that Phil Arballo is going to be running against Devin Nunes. So that's another race we should definitely be looking at. We have more influence the closer the race is to us, as always. So any other comments, agenda items for future meetings, questions? This is a general open forum, so anything anyone would like to announce? Sean?
I wanted to thank Valerie, I think she's still on, Councilmember Arkin, for referring to the Pleasanton City Council to raise the believe they're going to consider tomorrow raising the LGBTQ pride flag in Pleasanton. We started this in Dublin 3 years ago, and it's just, I'm so proud that, you know, throughout the Tri-Valley now, all the way up into Danville and all the way down into Livermore, every June at cities and school districts, we see them raising the LGBTQ pride flag, which is a great outward expression of inclusivity for our LGBTQ community members, and to recognize them for their contributions and challenges that they face on a daily basis. So thanks, Valerie, for being a champion there.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Valerie.
May I just make a comment? I think that many of us city council members have made that same request. So I think there's a lot of support.
Wonderful. And thank you too, Julie. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Sean, for that comment. Very much appreciated. Julie, can you clarify, is the vote, when is the vote going to be held?
I'm sorry, I don't think, was that to me?
Yeah, or is there a vote, or is it just
I don't think it's a vote. I don't think it needs a vote. I think that there's a lot of support. So
awesome. All right, thank you very much.
I think they're just looking at the mechanics of it at this point. So
perfect, wonderful. So I do not have any announcements right now personally. I'm just excited now. We're getting into summer, things are opening up. I'm looking forward to really the opportunities to see all of you in person again. I will say, I guess the one announcement I have is if anyone knows anyone who is 12 to 18 now, they're eligible for the vaccines. And so I personally am hearing a lot from students that they're very excited about this opportunity, but not all of them know about it yet. So if there are young people you know in your life who would like to get the vaccine, you know, please spread the word. You know, vaccinations are really what is allowing us to open up and meet each other and see each other in person, and to have our barbecue, and eventually to have our meetings in person again. So thank you all. I will be looking into ways as we do start meeting in person to try to have a digital presence. It's not going to be the same. It's always a challenge to do in person and digital together, but I do want people who are either uncomfortable meeting in person yet, or just the convenience of being on Zoom is important to them, to have that option still. So I'm going to look into ways to do that. We'll try our best, but I make no promises for how well it's going to go. It is always technologically tricky. So with that, are there any last announcements?
Yeah, I have one last announcement to just skip my mind. I have a carport that's 12 by 20. If anybody needs that, particularly for a nonprofit or some kind of charity, it's a canvas carport. It initially cost about $250, and I have all of the accessories with it. It's been to Burning Man about 4 times, so it's used for about 4 weeks in total. It's in excellent condition, and I have to get it out of my backyard. It's not constructed, it's taken apart. It needs a truck to be moved, but get in touch with me if you know anybody who could use this.
Thank you, you're supposed to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I will leave this with the last thing is just anyone who does want to reach out, anyone who wants to join the outreach committee, or anyone who wants to go through the bylaw review, reach out to me. We are looking for as many people as possible to be working on outreach as always. That is going to be our next big steps. And oh, I see a last comment from Mary.
I almost forgot. There will be a fundraiser by several groups coming up June 19th, which is also Juneteenth, the Emancipation holiday. And this will be in Livermore, coincident with the citywide yard sale. And the fundraiser is for 2 candidates in, I believe, Virginia, both of them Black, and we have kind of adopted their candidacies. It was initiated by Swing Left, Tri-Valley, but we will be joined by other groups. It's going to be a big deal. We are going to ask people to contribute something nice. So think about that. I'll get a more polished announcement out to the club pretty soon. Okay, but think about what you'd like to contribute. I already put aside my contributions, and then funnel them to people like Kyoko Takayama or Evan in Livermore. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then we'll also be sure to post those announcements on our social media as well. So keep an eye there. If you're not following us on Facebook or Instagram, you can get our regular announcements there, as well as if you join our email list, you'll get, of course, the meeting announcements and the general announcements on.
And of course, come prepared to buy too. It's from 8 until noon, June 19th.
Wonderful. On that exciting note, we will wrap up a little bit early today. I'll stick around for a bit if anyone just wants to chat or anyone has any questions for me about any details or anything. But we'll wrap up our meeting here to meet again on June 20. I forget. I should have a calendar open. We'll meet in the third Monday in June. Same place, same time, the 21st. Okay, June 21st. And I will see you all then. Have a wonderful beginning of your summer.